Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final in our series of Begin with the Breath authors. Today, I get the pleasure of interviewing the person who has so generously offered to be the hostess for all of us and interview all the other authors. So, welcome today, Jenny Langren.
Thank you, Cordelia. It's been the greatest pleasure to have this time with all of you. So it's been like a gift I get to give to myself. That's how I say it.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? I felt the same way when I read your chapter, you know, because you were the first one to turn in your chapter. And, we had some exchange going back and forth. And when I was, looking, even before I saw everybody else's chapter, I was like, Jenny should go first.
Hmm.
And I know you were surprised about that. So what did you think when you saw that, like, out of all the chapters that yours was selected to be the first?
Well, I guess an honor is it's a word that we throw around a lot, but it means so much to me to do the work. I mean, to be coaching through the breath framework. I like to use the term that it flows from me. When Annie and Michael presented it to me, all I could say was, "It is me. This is how I live. This is how I already coach in my own business and through the work that I do." So, hi, Gabriel. So it's just it felt right. Felt good. Yeah.
And I love that you said that. So often, and this is a comment I've gotten here and there on my travels, that there are a lot of people coaching, and most of them don't even live the methodology that they recommend for the people they're coaching. So I love that you only choose to do something that you're aligned with. So let's just jump into how does the breath framework show up in your life?
Uh, it shows up every day. And it's not like it's BREA. I mean, it's not that you have to go through it that way. Um, but I will ask myself, okay, where am I right now? What is this about? Is this about I'm going through something? Is this about me allowing and letting go of control of the things that are outside of my sphere of influence? Or is this, that I get to self-care and come back to where I am and how I am actually feeling right now? It's just that constant awareness of finding myself on my journey so that I can gain the clarity to take that next step.
Yeah, that's a good point because, like, before we went live, you were actually saying, we've rescheduled this a couple of times, you know, and one because I was self-caring yesterday, and then another time because you were self-caring, you had to take care of your family last week. So um, let's go a little bit deeper and talk about, of course, your story in the book talks about a past situation. And just to make things more real time and real life, just give a real example of how it's helped you this past week.
That's great. So this past week has been a lot of changes around my kids being sick and actually having COVID. And as a single parent, I rely on my calendar. I rely on knowing what tomorrow is going to look like. I plan for it. And at the same time, this week has been about letting go of the outcome and reminding myself that I cannot control the future. I create it by being present with myself and my children and meeting them where they are and myself where I am. So this week has been allowing. And also to mention, there's a lot of uncertainty going on in the world right now. And I'm in Sweden, so I am in Europe. And it's also been going through my fear of what is happening. It's aligning with what is actually behind my fear,
Mm.
that I am finding to be love for people and love for myself, and the understanding that I'm worthy of being safe and that people are
Mm.
worthy of being safe. So that's just to mention a few.
I love that. And that's very current. I mean, we can't have any of these live conversations without, acknowledging what's going on in the Ukraine, and especially with you being not terribly far away from that.
Mm.
It must, definitely show up in how you're feeling. Um, I see Felicia's here. Aloha. And I'm wondering, like, when you talk about your fear because of your love for people, do you think perhaps on some, I mean, I know that COVID is like an actual condition, and at the same time, when we're in fear, when we're in lower vibration, we are more susceptible because our immunity goes down. Do you
Yeah.
think that perhaps energetically your children are feeling the vibration of your fear?
I think they definitely are, and it's me, and it's what other kids are talking about in school, and it's how the teachers are also coping on on their end, and yes, there is definitely a connection there. Mhm.
And for people that were to who are now just being introduced to this book and they're having an opportunity to read it, what would be your message to them for, like, how could they use the breath framework to address their fears in this time of, I guess, really global crisis? It's not just the Ukraine, right? Because we've got
Mm,
Yemen and we've got like a whole lot of places that are struggling right now. We just, every time there's a new one, that's where the spotlight goes.
yeah,
And that's the great reason that's the great thing that we have the breath framework to help us through
yeah,
that.
yeah. I'd say um, there are many reasons why the breath framework will support us in relating to our fears and actually growing through. It is growing through it. Um, I realize that experiencing fear is also a place of vulnerability. It's a place of feeling the discomfort of not being in control or not having everything figured out or not feeling safe. And I think foremost, the breath framework guides you towards a more compassionate relationship with yourself so that you are able to stand with yourself and greet yourself in that moment of fear with loving and compassionate eyes. And it is when we have those eyes of also understanding and curiosity that we do want to stay with ourselves. We do want to spend time in our own company to understand ourselves better. And that is when we get to the understanding of what is causing that fear and how that can actually help us align with ourselves and take out direction for our next step.
Yeah, so once we connect and allow ourselves to feel that fear, basically, is what you're saying, the breath work allows us to do that, then it will give us the guidance, it will reveal the guidance and the wisdom that's already within us. So
Yes,
we'll
it is.
know what's right, the appropriate action.
Yeah, it is within us, and it's in that compassionate relationship towards ourselves we start spending time with all emotions, all our experiences, as if they were past, like they're old friends of ours. It's nothing that we have to push aside or squash. It is something that we get to listen to And I've had several experiences like that through the pandemic also, recognizing that I am stressing, I'm on to the next thing because it's such discomfort to actually stay with myself and be present and feel what I'm feeling. So it's been many moments of just pausing and staying and listening.
And would you say when you listen, uh, are you listening for like, because there's listening and there's listening, right?
Yeah.
We do this with other people too. So
Yeah.
like, tell us how to listen. That's my question.
Okay, so listen, I would say teaching in higher education, I would say listening is a cognitive process and it is a choice. It is a decision to open up and to not being in a judging state, but to be observing of what is coming up and accept it for what it is. And when you do, you start treasuring that experience. Um, yeah, there's another image coming up for me. So I actually live on an island and I have water running down beneath my balcony. So I have that constant flow. And when I sit at my balcony and when I spend time with my emotions this way, I see the river and it's just ever flowing. It just keeps going, just like time. And I know that if I reach out my hand and I touch that water, I bring my hand up and I reach it out to touch it again, it isn't the same water.
Hmm.
And when I listen and when I'm in the moment, I'm able to let go of that need to control that flow or make it into what I thought it should be or what the past ideals taught me it would be, and just listen and accept it for what it is. And that's when we become very creative also. Like I get to let go and actually allow that water to bring me with it, and it takes me to some very, very beautiful places and a newfound understanding for myself.
Yeah,
um yeah.
I love that. I love that imagery, of just allowing the words that we hear from another being to nourish us like drops of water flowing in a river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you say, we have a relationship to ourselves just like we have a relationship to another human being. It's very helpful when we start thinking about it that way. Like, what is it that I do that inspires deep trust with other people? Because it is when we learn to trust and know ourselves that we can let go of everything that's going on around us. You know, we seek out our sense of security in outward control, and we find it in inward trust. So, how do we build that trust with other people? It is exactly the same way that we build it with ourselves. And I think that's very timely to talk about right now. It's about spending the time, it's about listening, it's about being understanding and curious and compassionate.
Yeah, the world needs a lot more compassion and connection, I'm also I want to read a section of your chapter. Sharing my story of allow, not control. Um, you will learn how to relate to strong emotions, that there are healthy ways for us to build a sense of safety in our lives, and what letting go and allowing what's inside our sphere of influence truly looks like. That's basically what you just said. I mean, just I wanted to read that to pinpoint, like, she wrote this, I don't know, what has it been, 6 months? So, just to that's evidence that she actually lives this because she's not reading this right now, and that's really the invitation that we all have access to live into, is just without judgment, with a free flowing heart, allowing to connect through reflection instead of projection, right? We don't have to project the ugliness in our hearts. We have an opportunity to stop, pause, and reflect,
Mm.
be with our emotions, and then, you know, be curious. I'm just curious, are you
Yeah.
feeling this way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And what what is something that we can do to, or okay, let me not ask what we can do, right? Because that's the problem. I feel like the breath framework is not about doing, it's about being, right? Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah.
So how can we like just slow down and be with our breath?
Um, for me, it's been, oh my goodness, I can't, my brain is going in so many different ways. For me, it's about, it's about enoughness. It's about understanding that I am worthy of it to begin with. Um, like you described, the chapter in the book for me is about the awareness journey of leaving a destructive marriage, a very destructive marriage. And in that marriage, I was around, someone who constantly made me feel like it was not enough. And I had this storytelling going on about who I was that caused me to always be, at the next thing, at the next thing, at the next thing. And I was never really present in my own body. Like I could not feel what the coffee tasted like. I
Hmm.
didn't hear the birds singing. I didn't feel the sunlight on my face. I was just always with his moods, for example, or or I was thinking about the future and what's the future going to be like for my children, and that caused me to be in that state. So really, for me, the key was to reconnect with my authentic worth. And when you start healing and when you start living from a place of abundance, um, that really falls in place. You're just not as eager to be in situations where people are pushing you past your limits. You're not eager to be in situations or relationships where you are not respected. It really does begin with myself, that I value myself. It's not about me having to do this and this and this. It's about that I get to enjoy my life. I get to plan my day based on how I'm feeling that morning. I get to set my peace of mind first and organize my life around that. So I'd say that reconnecting with my authentic worth has been the piece that just like flipped everything for me.
I hear you, and I had this discussion recently with someone who is, coming who is currently coming out of a similar situation that you describe in your chapter, right? And, you know, she was expressing that like I try these things and I know these things, right?
Mm,
And what I think comes before all of what you just said is acknowledging that you're in shock. When you get married, you don't expect that you're going to marry someone that's going to treat you like that or create that environment.
yeah.
And it's that, I heard your story differently just now, having that recent conversation with someone that, there's a moment of shock. It's like, what's happening? Where am I? And you're constantly in this survival mode. And by the time you catch up with yourself and you realize that you're in shock and survival mode, that's when it's like you start to understand that, oh, I have choices. I don't have to be in survival mode. And
Mm.
then this is where you start having access to things like the breath framework. So, do you think that the Jenny you were during your, the hardest part of your marriage could have easily used this framework, or do you think that it was after the realization that, oh, I'm in shock and I'm in survival mode that I can look for solutions?
I think I would definitely have benefited from having it reach me earlier, because it starts with you listening to yourself, like begin where you are. And and that's not easy. You need that person staying close with you to help you understand what that looks like. Because my mind was trained to be with his moods. I was trained to always be somewhere else so that I would not know myself, you know? Because then maybe I would fight back. Maybe I would step into my choices if I knew what they were. So, but I say definitely. Thing is that you need someone close to you, and the breath framework provides that. It provides that personal experience with a coach that holds that safe space for you, because you need to hear those questions. You're already under so much pressure, so you need those questions that help you self-reflect. What does that make you feel? What is important to you right now? Because what you're talking about here, I think, is normal reactions, right? To allow yourself to have that normal shock of what is really going on. This is not what I agreed to. And in that kind of abuse that I was in, you start being trained to not even have normal reactions.
Yeah.
So yes, with that personal guide, I would very much have benefited from the breath framework from the start.
And that's a really important realization because a lot of times people are like, "Oh, this is like fantasy land, like I can't do that." And you're saying like definitely it's for everyone. And this is
Yes.
like the first step, first line of solution building is to read the breath framework. And I want to take it a next step, right? So the way we relate to others is the way we relate to ourselves, and it translates to the way we show up at work. So I believe there's a chapter in there about toxic work environments as well, right? So just for people who may think, oh, that's just personal stuff. Okay.
Mm.
um, yeah, well, there are toxic work environments, and it's the same kind of autopilot that we go into, right? You're conditioned to um, react a certain way instead of taking the time to pause and respond. So tell me, like, from if someone listening or watching is living in a toxic work environment, how can this book help them?
Hmm. The book will help you come back to, first of all, like I said, normal reactions, allowing yourself to feel and think and have your own space. I believe that all of us are born into this world, and also in our workplaces, there is a space that is only yours and yours alone. Your opinions, your creativity, your emotional needs, your psychological needs, your personality, your uniqueness, your gifts. And in a toxic environment, many times, and I coach so many clients who are in this ongoing thing that they start like denying themselves. Like when they feel like something is not right with them, they will still go along with it. or they feel like they really want to do something, but then they're afraid of like really letting people know because there's no psychological safety. So it's like they make that space smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And the breath framework guides you into expanding again, to reclaim that power, to reclaim your voice. And what I think is so important, like to enjoy it. We're
Yeah.
so much into performance, but like this is your life. This is all the hours that you spend in your workplace, and it's about you enjoying that time, to that place of fulfillment also in your work. Yes.
Yeah, I love how you put that so beautifully, right? You go through the years to perfect your expertise, and then you seek, you know, employment with a company where you get to do that every day, and to shrink yourself and diminish your expertise is not healthy. So, that's you can start by reading the book, and then, you know, if you need more, of course, you can connect personally with one of the coaches, whoever you resonate most with. So we have some people here that I just want to acknowledge. Our co-authors, Felicia and Ipek. We have Gabrielle here from Brazil, and I guess someone else as well. And I don't know who that person is. Um, and Ipek says, hearing your voice immediately calms me down. And funny enough, the statement is valid for both you, Jenny, and Cordelia. So thank you for that, Ipek. That's super sweet. Um,
It's
I,
beautiful.
I love having this conversation with you, because you really are a light. I deeply feel that this it says on the title, right? Our intuitive coaches ignite professionals with breath and life, healing and elevating souls. And really, just listening to you and having this exchange about how our personal life, how your personal story translates into how someone can show up fully in the workplace as their whole self. And yeah, can you tell us more about that?
I would love to. First, I got to make an example of what's going on over at my house right now, because this is all about like accepting where you are. My son just walked down and he has his screen on and it's just like blasting. So I need to just ask him to to go into his room just a little bit longer.
So here we have real-time usage of the breath framework, and that's the beautiful thing about going live. We get to see how how someone actually uses what we're talking about real time. And like I said before, it's like she wrote this 6 months ago, and it's very clear that it wasn't just for that moment that she was writing. It's every day in her life. So thank you for sharing that with us. That's so
Thank you,
great.
Cordelia. I love those like, oh, let's look at this. This is happening right now. And it's all about, because I know that when we are in performance and we're in prestige and we're coming from a place of not feeling worthy, like we're not enough, I have to get this perfect, then I mean it would be very stressful to have things not go according to plan. But you and I, we know, like we're here to enjoy this moment. It's never about perfection, it's about connection
Yeah.
between the two of us and the people listening. And everyone knows, especially through the pandemic, that we live our lives and kids walk into meetings and we get to enjoy that. So I was happy
Yeah.
to make an example.
They're like reminders in every moment, right? And you're a mother of three. I'm a mother of six. We're both currently
Mhm.
single working moms.
Yeah,
So yeah, things come up, people show up, and it's part of who we are.
it is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So and just allowing ourselves to be present with that. So I that's really all the questions I had. I think there's so much there. For anyone, even for me, I'm curious to go back and listen again because
Mm,
you really, shared some golden nuggets. So,
thank you.
I wanna, acknowledge you and celebrate you for stepping up and being such a big part of this book and, such a driving force and making this fun and a team effort and everything. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Cordelia. It's a joy. I mean, it's amazing people, and it's dream work is teamwork. It's what we create together, and I mean, I can just go on. I love this so much. That's also acceptance, accepting where I end, so that I can invite you to compliment me, so that we can be whole. It's just the beauty of work. So it was so much fun. It is ongoing.
It is so much fun, yeah, and I love how, this speaks a lot to Annie's leadership too, and
Yeah,
her, understanding of the human heart and the human soul, and how she selected each one of us. I know initially it was her and Mike, but ultimately, uh, they agreed, and then, we are the team who still exist, and to the elevation of people's soul through the breath framework. So thank you for those of you who are here live and those who will watch on the replay. And sharing is loving. So share this with another heart and share this with another soul.
beautiful. Thank you, Cordelia.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Bye for now.
bye for now.